Satang Prasanga.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time, and that you are taking the necessary precautions to be safe. So today's session goes as follows. This surrendered kind of brokenness often arises from years of unfulfillment, frustration, and disappointment, and having let go of one's dream of how and when Krishna should have acted. One is detached from one's own plans. Rest, acceptance, and peace, but not betrayal. This type of surrender has trust in Krishna, even when things happen differently than expected. We see, as we observe the world and try to make sense of the world from our limited understanding of what is the world and what makes sense in this world, it is from an egocentric perspective. That means it's from my perspective, from me, mine. I am the center of this understanding. But as we broaden our consciousness through spirituality and spiritual wisdom, we realize that the world is not egocentric, but theocentric. Theos means God in the Greek, Latin tradition. So theocentric, that means this whole world is being run by the wisdom of God. So if we don't understand what's going on, means we haven't the knowledge, we haven't accumulated, we haven't understood the mechanism that runs this world. And that's our greatest enemy right now. It's not the problem, it's not the issue. Those are symptoms of not understanding the problem. Once we've understood the problem, then we can use that as a reference to understand all of life, especially on the planet and how it works. Because it's a theocentric wisdom. It's based on God's teachings. Therefore, in Bhakti Shastri, one of the first books we teach there is Isha Upanishad. Isha, the Supreme Controller. Know how the Supreme Controller is working. And one of the first verses that comes up there is Purnamadham, Purnamidham. That everything is complete, everything is arranged in a complete sense. And it works in that way. My problem is I haven't understood how that is so. Therefore, I'm using the symptom as the reason. The symptom of not understanding is that I'm suffering, and I'm using that as the reason. And that's why I'm in difficulty. The Sutra goes on to say today, this surrendered kind of brokenness often arises from years of unfulfillment, frustration, and disappointment. Three powerful words in the negative paradigm: frustration, unfulfillment, disappointment. These words only exist because we don't understand what's going on. From our perspective, it looks like I have done everything. I have done my best. I haven't hurt anyone. I have tried to be pious. So why are these things happening? And once we reason with the understanding from wisdom literature, then our whole perspective changes about the world. So we see this is not just a phenomena of humanness or mankind, Manusha. It is a phenomena even the demigods experience, enmity towards each other. Therefore, envy is the one thing that cannot be purified. We have to root it ourselves from the heart. Everything else can be dovetailed in Krishna consciousness, but not envy. And this is the root. Yesterday we were talking very strongly in Sutra 31 about the root being the false ego. Krishna is the only deity that's addressing that part of who we are. So we see even great personalities like Indra, as soon as his position is being questioned, as soon as somebody who he thinks is less than him threatens him, doesn't want to listen to him, he wants to just kill. He just wants to wipe them out, wipe out the Brajbasis, wipe out this child, Balak, this little boy. Who does he think he is, this impudent boy? He doesn't know who he's dealing with. Therefore, he can speak like that. Therefore, when we react in the way of crying, of throwing a tantrum, of shouting, of anger, of disappointment, of unfulfillment, these are all symptoms of childishness. Only a child would react like that. And then whoever looks at that, they'll say, oh, child, immature. Immature means doesn't have enough knowledge yet. He hasn't understood properly yet. So everybody else is tolerating, and we are going on with life as if we are the center of our existence. So spirituality is teaching us, make life theocentric, God-centered. Isya, Isya Upanishad, Isya Vasya Idam Sarvam. This whole planet is rotating around his direction. It goes on to say, and having let go of one's dream and how and when Krishna should have acted. See, we are expecting that Krishna will work this way. Why? Because we've just done a prayer for him. We've just fasted for him. We've done some austerity for him. So when we have that why do we have that expectation? Because we're so attached to this idea that it must work, and nothing material can sort it right now. Therefore, if I please God, he's the only one that can sort it. And we have heard from society and from devotees of religion how powerful God is, that you leave anything in front of him and he'll sort it out. So therefore we have that false expectation, still being attached to the idea though. We never for once think that maybe I'm attached to the wrong idea. We still hold on to the idea, hoping that there must be some way I can tweak it so that it'll work. We never for once think maybe the idea is wrong. Maybe my understanding is wrong. We don't have that option, and therefore we suffer the most, because when it's not being answered our way, now God is wrong. God is the problem because he's not solving it. These devotees are saying to do it. I'm doing all these prayers and pujas. It's not working out. Now he is wrong. We never for once think that maybe my idea is wrong. Maybe, it's not meant to be that way. And move on. Take it as an event in life that's not working out, and then move on. Life, how broad is life? If our life is just limited to what we do every day, how much of it is conscious? 90% of life is subconscious. Do you ever realize that you drive your car without even driving your car? You just sit in it and it's going somehow. You're not even conscious you're changing gears. You get to work and then that's a routine. Anything that's a routine is being done by our subconscious mind. And because of that, how much of life then is conscious? If 90% of what we do is run by our subconscious mind, how much of our life is conscious? Therefore, it's so difficult to be conscious of Krishna and devotional service, because we've never trained ourselves that way. We've always trained to be efficient and let everything become second nature, routine. And by that kind of a training, we've never done anything consciously. In the training part, yes, because we're learning it. But once that's over, It just becomes second nature. And because we've learned that skill as a life skill, now we are paying the penalty for it, because it cannot be applied in spiritual life. Spiritual activity needs consciousness, conscientiousness, constantly. It goes on to say, one is detached from one's own plans. I think we covered that part quite exclusively, that we know our plans and what Krishna's plans. Sure, even people around us don't trust our plans. What to speak of Krishna? Many times our plans are just we and our plans. Our plans means we are the center of it. There's this interesting story of this Brahmin. He used to do all the pujas and everything. Om, fat, fat, fada, fat. Get everything done, and all the mantras and everything. And everything used to be like, And he was so proud that he was a Brahmin, and I'm so, Brahmin caste, and I know all the mantras and pujas and everything. And until one day he passed on. And when he passed on, as he entered the kingdom of heaven, they said, "Hey, rukiye, just wait a minute, sit down there on the bench." Indian heaven, right? So bench and everything is there. You have to sit and wait, and queue is there. So population is big in India. So entry is not so easily, especially with COVID and everything going on now. So, betiye, sit down, have a seat. Put the fan on for him, sitting and he's waiting. And then one guy comes by with pan in his mouth, and he's looking how this guy came here to heaven. He looks like a taxi driver or a bus driver, something like that. Dirty looking guy, but he came here to heaven. And he walked up to the gates, and Saint Peter is there at the gate, Jai Vijay, and they are saying, "Oh yes, please come, go through." And this Brahmin lost it. He said, hey, what's going on here? I did all the mantras, pujas, everything, followed my whole life doing this work of doing puja for everyone. This guy is a Calcutta bus driver. He just came in like this, like that, and he's going through, and you making me sit under the fan here. So how can this is injustice? This is adharma. And then Jai and Vijay explained to, "Hey, Panditji, this guy, bus driver, he would drive the bus from Calcutta to Mayapur. But the way he would drive, Indian road, and the way he would drive the bus, he'll make everybody chant in the bus. Everybody will go, Hari Bol." Because they knew this could be our last trip, bus drivers. And you were doing puja and this things like, who you made chant? You just collected your dakshina, you collected your things, and you got your respect and adoration. But this guy was doing Sankirtan, he made everybody chant in the bus. So who is better? So when we see the world from our perspective, we get caught in that must be true, it must be real. But it's just our interpretation. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed today's class. Please join us again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.